All right, guys, I just want to welcome back to Everything College Football Podcast. Today, me and Nick are ready to preview and prediction for a major game in the SEC going down on Saturday night. Texas A&M and Texas, the long-awaited revival of this rivalry. 5.5-point favorites are the visitors. 40.5 is the total. 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time on ABC from Kyle Field, College Station, Texas. Looking at the Longhorns offense, getting things started with Quinn Ewers, a big story of the monitor is the mild ankle sprain he suffered against Kentucky. It seems like he's going to play in this game. That seems all signs are pointing to that. Having an all right year, 23 touchdowns, 6 picks, missed 2 games earlier on in the season. Has really been held in check the last 2 weeks, less than 200 yards passing against Arkansas and Kentucky. It's really not been a barrage of numbers. You figured this year Ewers would be a Heisman finalist, Nick. Even if he played those 2 games, his numbers really wouldn't be boosted that significantly. This is still a veteran quarterback that you're going to enjoy having on the road. He was pretty bad against Georgia. I think the game plan here is going to be different, though. They had a strange game plan against the Bulldogs where they wanted to try and throw deep on every play, it seemed. And I think in this game, it's going to be a more methodical approach, especially with a quarterback that might be hobbled. And, of course, Ewers isn't really known for his mobility by any means, but he's not a statue and he never has been. But in this game, he potentially could be. So a big dynamic for Texas. If Arch Manning has to play, I don't think he's going to do well. Going on the road into an environment like this, I don't think he's going to provide much. So Ewers has to be able to, make plays despite the limitations. The offensive line he has is great, so that's a big boost. But his play's been kind of up and down for the most part this year. Things are not going to be much easier with all the factors surrounding.
Certainly interesting dynamic we're seeing about the potential of Quinn Ewers missing this game. I think he's been really good this season when he's been healthy. I don't think he's really hitting the high levels people thought he might, but I think he's having a really serviceable season that's been solid. 68% comp rate, 2,000 yards passing, 23 touchdowns, 6 picks. Good enough in my opinion, playing good football, 279 yards per game passing. This team is averaging about 3 touchdowns per game as well through the air. If they have to switch to Arch Manning, certainly it's going to be tough playing on the road and making a start in a hostile environment rivalry game, so it might be tough for Arch. Arch looked good in the games he's played in so far this season. 667% comp rate, 900 yards passing, 9 touchdowns, 2 picks. He's been good, but obviously, playing at A&M at Kyle Field, one of the toughest places to play in the nation, is certainly a tough thing for you to kind of get thrown into late in the cycle. So I certainly think that could be a disadvantage for this Texas team. I think Ewers will get the go. I'm sure he'll be healthy enough. They're going to be rehabbing and working on it all weekend. This line is still in favor of Texas, which would make me think that Ewers is good to go. I would like to see him go in this one. I think even if Arch plays that they still have a pretty damn good chance. I'm not as cold on Arch playing on the road as you are, although it is certainly something to consider. I think both quarterbacks are very talented young quarterbacks that are getting the job done. This Texas offense, they can air it out. They can hit you across the field. They got a bunch of different receivers they use. This is a really talented offense that could be in line for a good game here.
You look at the receivers he has to work with. Gunnar Helmet, tight end, is the leader. 5 touchdowns, 544. He's been a very good tight end for him. It's not just a dump-off option. This is a very effective guy who is the leading weapon. Isaiah Bond, really not having an elite year like we thought he would be, but they've also been really dishing it around. He has 5 TDs, 510 yards. Matthew Golden, he's been a nice red zone option of his team-high 8 touchdowns. Ryan Wingo, the true freshman, has been an explosive playmaker. DeAndre Moore as well with 263 and 5 touchdowns, and Cialis Bolden starting to see a little bit more involvement in the offense, but this is a deep supporting cast, Nick. The production isn't eye-popping by any means, but they can hurt you in a variety of different ways. Very versatile group here that the Horns are bringing on the road.
A very versatile group. 3 receivers over 500 yards receiving. Helm leading the way at 544, 13 yards per grab, 5 touchdowns for him. Isaiah Bond, that is, has been really good for this team since transferring over. 5'10", 16 yards per grab, 5 touchdowns. Matthew Golden leads the team with 8 touchdowns, 500 yards for him, 14 yards per grab. Ryan Wingo's been good, 339, 16.1 yards per grab, the top receiver in that regard. In terms of yards per catch, 2 touchdowns. Jaden Blue has 3. DeAndre Moore Jr. has been solid, 5 receiving touchdowns for him, a really good red zone target. Still as Bolden's getting involved more. 200 yards receiving for him and 1 score. So I like what they have here. They can really balance it. They can attack you a bunch of different pieces here. They got a lot of different guys you have to keep an eye on here. Very deep receiving room. I really like what this unit can do.
I really like what the rushing attack can do as well. Quintavious and Winsner and Jaden Blue. It's been a 1-2 punch of them. Pretty fresh legs here coming into this contest. They've done a great job of rotating this year. Jarrett Gibson as the number 3. This is nice. Backfield has been productive in every single game. For the most part, only had 104 against Vanderbilt rushing. Didn't do anything against Georgia. Other than that, that's pretty much it. They weren't all that efficient against Arkansas, but they're still able to stay ahead of the sticks. And of course, it's because of the offensive line they bring to the table. Kelvin Banks at left tackle has had a flawless year. Hayden Connor's been a phenomenal pass blocker at left guard. Jake Major's a phenomenal center who's going to be big in communication in a road environment like this. Cameron Williams has been much improved at right tackle, and then DJ Campbell, the new insertion in the starting lineup this year at right guard, has been great. Nation's best offensive line fielded by the Horns here, Nick. You've seen against Georgia at home, a while ago, get absolutely obliterated. I don't think anyone's going to bring that type of energy to the table, but I think it's certainly possible. Communication will have to be key, and I think it's going to be much improved despite the tough matchup. I think the O-line will be in for a solid day in pass pro and in terms of run blocking.
I like what this rushing attack can do because of this offensive line. Trey Wisner's been really good. 626, 5 yards per carry, 3 scores. Jaden Blue, 555, 5.3, and 6 scores. Also has 3 receiving touchdowns, nearly 300 yards receiving. He's a good weapon out of the backfield in that regard. Jarrett Gibson has 4 touchdowns as well. He's not bad, 5 yards per carry. This is a good offensive line. I think when you look at what the talent they have there, you could really start to understand. Ryan Kelvin Banks Jr. getting a lot of love as a top draft prospect. He's been really good at left tackle. The offensive line's been solid. DJ Campbell's been good at right guard. Cameron Williams has been solid at right tackle as well. Playing on the road, it's going to be loud. You cannot have any pre-snap penalties. This team's been good at trying to avoid that. They're going to have to be focused here, cannot have any mistakes. Do not give any free yards to the A&M defense. Got to be strong here. Got to be smart. I like what this offensive line can do. This is a really good unit. And overall, I like this Texas offense. This is a very good unit. It's having a good season. They put up points. They play really strong, concise football. They don't make a whole lot of turnovers either. This is a good unit overall. I like with the 35.5 points per game, 15th in the nation, really good. Heading into the hostile environment, I still think this offense will have a good day.
Moving to the Texas A&M offense, Marcel Reed was officially given the keys to the offense against LSU, where they were able to pull away in that one. Since then, though, it's kind of been a rough shake. They beat New Mexico State, cool, whatever. South Carolina, the game was tough. They got blown out in that one. The offense just wasn't very effective. He couldn't run the ball with his legs, and the passing attack, their ceiling isn't very high this year despite having a lot of talent. Against Auburn, he had 300 yards and 3 touchdowns, a pretty good game. They were playing from behind in that one, ran the ball a little bit better. His dual threat prowess is going to be, have to really be showcased here. Only completing 60% this year. I really like the talent this kid has. A young player, I think, has been very impressive. Against Texas, the QB run, they haven't really been tested in that regard too much this year. And I think A&M could certainly add an interesting dynamic in that regard. But Reed's going to have to be good. He's going to have to be productive. He's going to have to be accurate. He's going to have to make good plays downfield. And this just isn't that explosive of a passing attack, Nick. And I still am confident they have talent at receiver. Just have not been able to really utilize it this year. Noah Thomas leading the way in all categories. Jabari Barber's right behind him. Ja'Day Walker, Cyrus Allen, solid tight end, and Trey Watson. Terry Bussey will get on the field, even though he also hasn't been very productive this year. This is a team, Nick, they've kind of, not been great on offense in terms of what the expectation kind of was. Wigman really isn't all that good. They gave the keys to Reed, and he's helped elevate them. But against a defense like this, if they can't run with his legs, how are they going to make plays downfield?
Reed has elevated this offense. He's been a serviceable quarterback, nothing flashy though. 6% comp rate, which is a little bit concerning. 1,400 yards passing, 12 touchdowns, 3 picks. He's been good enough. He's not really going to hit you super hard down the field. A good enough runner for this team as well. 441 on the ground, 4.7 yards per carry, and 6 scores. If he has a bad day running the ball though, that could certainly be a problem because I just don't think they're going to be able to have that vertical passing attack they're going to need. Noah Thomas, 514, 16.6 yards per grab, and 6 scores for him. Great numbers there. Jabari Barber's been solid, 325. And 1 touchdown. Ja'Day Walker, 277, and 2 scores for him. Cyrus Allen, Trey Watson have been okay as well. Watson, a traditional tight end that's been solid with 200 yards and a touchdown for him so far this season. This A&M offense is going to have to run the ball effectively here to win this game. They're going to have to have a good balance on the ground and through the air. They're averaging the same amount of yards per game passing as they are rushing, so obviously the rushing attack is a key part of this offense. Texas has shown some success against the run so far this season. They're going to have to be strong here. A&M's got to hope they can win the battle on the ground because I don't trust them to win the battle through the air. Going to have to have a really good day rushing the ball. We're going to talk about this rushing unit in a second that has some talented pieces, but a lot of it starts with Reed, the quarterback, who's a really good runner. He's got to be that dynamic in this game. He's got to hit Texas over and over again with his legs and really make something happen.
Yeah, you look at Texas A&M's ground and pound attack. Le'Veon Moss injury is major for this unit. They lost him a couple weeks ago. Very good player. He would have been immense in a contest like this. I still think they're incredibly deep at running back, though. Amari Daniels has been good for them. E.J. Smith, he's been a reliable number 2 as well. Didn't get any carries against Auburn, though. So it's really just been the Daniels and Reed show. I'm still confident in this group's abilities, though, but Moss is a major loss. In the offensive line, led by Trey Zunn at left tackle, this is a group that I think has been in much better standing than you've seen in the last couple of years. Rushing attack overall, though, has not been really all that good over the last month. Mexico State, cool, had 200 yards. Really weren't very efficient or effective against Auburn. It was a struggle there. And against South Carolina, they did nothing against that D-line, 144 yards. And then against Miss State, all the way back in October, 136. And, of course, LSU is a bit of an outlier. But we already know that they're not very good at defending teams who have athletic quarterbacks. When you look back at the offensive line, though, Trey Zun's been great at left guard. It's kind of been a revolving door. You had 3 different guys play a good amount of snaps in that one. TJ Shanahan played the most. I think Chase Basantis is still your best option, though. At center, Kalani Fayu, a weak link there. Right guard, Amarj Reed Adams. Emerging year for him. He's been great. Probably their best offensive lineman. Demetrius Crownover. Really good run blocker, but in terms of pass protection, is certainly a guy that can be exposed. Hasn't allowed a sack this year, but he certainly has some rough battles on that right side. I think the best option here is just to try and keep Texas off balance, Nick. Colin Klein, I think he's going to have a nice approach in terms of keeping them on their heels with a variety of different play calls. But the offensive line will have to hold up in pass protection because they will have to throw the ball.
The injury of Le'Veon Moss is certainly concerning for this offense, although Amari Daniels is still a great back, 640 for him, 5.1 yards per carry, 8 scores, while E.J. Smith's not a terrible back, 165 yards for him on 48 carries. The offensive line's a good unit. I think it's a physical unit that's been solid in pass block and run block so far this season. Trey Zune's been really good at left tackle. He's going to have a good day here. Trace Basunas as well at left guard. He's going to have to be strong and win that battle. I worry about this A&M offense. I know they scored 41 points this past weekend against Auburn in a shootout, but I worry about them being able to run the ball. I think that's certainly a concern here. Not having Le'Veon Moss definitely worries me in a battle. I think that certainly damages them, makes me feel a little less confident in this offense, but if Reed has a good day on the ground, they can certainly have a punching chance to win this game. A lot of it's going to rely on what Reed can do. Can he be dynamic? Can he be dynamite for this offense? He's going to have to be if they want to win this game.
Now you move to a Texas defense that's been very stout this year. Only once have they allowed over 300 yards in a game, and that was to Florida in a blowout, so that really doesn't even count. That was a third-string quarterback. Certainly haven't played the toppest of offenses, Nick. They played OU, who didn't really have down their top 5 receivers. Played Mississippi State. That may have been Van Buren's first start. I think maybe Shapen was still healthy then. I think he was. Regardless, they've not played very tough offenses. They played Michigan, Arkansas, and Kentucky the last couple of weeks. And Arkansas has had some success, but kept shooting themselves in the foot, so they couldn't put as many points on the board as they wanted. Texas A&M's not exactly a world beater of an offense, but this is the best one they've faced since the Georgia game. And they played good in that game as well. Forced back into 3 interceptions, held them in check on the ground, even though their offensive line was a lot more physical than we were accustomed to seeing from the Bulldogs in that game. I think it's kind of an interesting, because I think the jury still is out on this defense, even though they're very talented from top to bottom and have great players up front. Barron Sorrell has been a complete game wrecker. You've seen it in that game against Arkansas. Alfred Collins has been a phenomenal run defender. Trey Moore is starting to have his presence felt a little bit more. Vernon Broughton also brings a lot of size to the table. And then Colin Simmons, the true freshman, he's been just a complete playmaker for them with 11.5 TFL. What do you think of this team here, Nick? It's going to be hard to run the ball, but again, they've not faced this threat since Michael Hawkins, but the defense wasn't kept honest because they couldn't throw the ball, so that really doesn't even count. Diego Pavia and Vanderbilt maybe, but I think this is a completely different challenge than what they've seen all year long.
Despite only giving up 12 points per game so far this season, the jury is still out on this Texas defense. I think it's a fair thing to say, because this is an offense, if it's firing on all cylinders from A&M, that will really test you and push you to your limits. I do like this defensive line. Alfred Collins is a great player, 39 total tackles, 4 tackles for loss, 1 sack for him. Barron Sorrell has been a home wrecker all year, 32 total tackles, 9 tackles for loss, 4.5 sacks for him. Colin Simmons has been really good, 31 total tackles, 12 tackles for loss, 7 sacks. Jeremiah Lowell has been solid, 25 total tackles, 3 tackles for loss. Trey Moore, 24 total tackles, 5 tackles for loss, 2.5 sacks. Veron Broughton as well, 23 total tackles and a sack for him. Ethan Burke's been a bit quieter this year, 14 total tackles for him, 4 tackles for loss, a sack, plus a pick 6 and 3 pass breakups. Still a really good player who's versatile for this defense and can do a lot for you. They move him around a little bit and get out a lot out of him. Overall, this is a great defensive line. I think is a really strong unit that's got some big physical pieces here. They're going to try and have to win the battle in the trenches. I think they certainly have an opportunity to do so. If they can stuff the run, it'll make things a lot more difficult for A&M and will put them in a very tough position.
Look at the middle of the defense, Anthony. He'll have an elite year. He's a phenomenal athlete. This is a guy that's probably going to spy for most of the game on passing downs against Marcel Reed because he's also really good in coverage. So, he certainly is going to be a big-time leader in a matchup like this. The rest of the group's kind of average. David Gabenda having a nice year in terms of improvements. Mo Blackwell, he's no good, doesn't really play that much anyways. Leona Lifau, he's all right. He's an efficient tackler, doesn't really offer much in coverage or run defense. So it's really going to be the Anthony Hill show here, Nick. He's going to need some reinforcements. These guys will have to step up, and I think Gabenda will be able to do that to an adequate rate. I think you'll see him play much more in this game than Lifau will.
I think this is a linebacking core that's got some really great pieces. Anthony Hill's a phenomenal player. 79 total tackles, 15 tackles for loss, 7.5 sacks, a pick, and a pass breakup. He's been really good. Gabenda's been really solid as well. 48 total tackles, 5 tackles for loss, a sack for him. Leon Lafau, I think he's a good player, but I don't think he's going to play a whole lot in this game. He's a really talented piece. 38 total tackles, 5 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, plus a pick for him. This is a great linebacking core, one of the best in the nation, a really big physical unit. Hill's going to have to get a lot of responsibility. He's going to be strong in this game, and I expect him to do so.
I'm going to move to the secondary. This is one unit that we've been waiting for to catch up in terms of the other ones. When we're talking about improvement, they're second nationally in pass defense, so I thought they'd lose to Washington in the playoff because their secondary was going to get abused, and oh my goodness, they got obliterated. This year, much better, though. Only 4 touchdowns allowed to 17 interceptions. Again, though, outside of Georgia, who have they faced, and they did have a good game against Georgia, and that needs to be accounted for. But these are not good passing attacks, Nick. Arkansas is cool. They got some weapons and a respectable dual threat quarterback. Kentucky, no shot there. There's nobody on here that has good weapons. Maybe Torrey Horton, Colorado State, week 1. This is a completely, I wouldn't say it's that different of a test, but I think the jury's still out on the secondary as well. Being probably a little too disrespectful because Jedi Barron is having an elite year. Jim Thorpe Award finalist. Malik Muhammad is a rising star in his second year after a phenomenal freshman season. Third corner, Gavin Holmes, he's really not all that good. You'll get the slot corner, Jalen Gilbew. He's having a good season for the most part. And then at free safety, you have Michael Toffee and Andrew Macumba. Macumba's a great leader. He's a guy who's going to be, probably accounting for the QB run a lot because he has a nice trigger downhill. Him and Toffee have been great in coverage. Again, there is some talent, though, for A&M. Maybe this is a game where they can kind of exploit some weaknesses against Texas, Nick, or do you think they'll just be fine against the run or the pass?
This is a good secondary. I think this is a secondary unit. It's a strong unit. I think they'll have to be good against the pass here. I think they'll have a good day here in Ultimate, which will lead to them winning this game. Michael Tiafi is a really good corner or DB for this team. 54 total tackles, 3 tackles for loss, an interception, 5 pass breaks. Really good coverage asset. Gillibo has been really solid as well. 46 total tackles, 2 tackles for loss, 3 pass breakups. Jihad Barron's been incredible for this team. 41 total tackles, 2 tackles for loss, a sack, 4 interceptions, 8 pass breakups. Really good coverage asset. Macumba's transferred over from Clemson has been good. 39 total tackles, 2 tackles for loss, 4 picks, 4 pass breakups for him. When you look at some other pieces, McDonald, Blackwell, Muhammad are all solid pieces. McDonald and Blackwell, 22 total tackles between the two of them. Muhammad's been really solid for this team, 20 total tackles, 6 pass breakups for him. Good numbers there. I like the secondary. I think the secondary will have a good day here. This is a unit that I think you're being a little too hard on. I think they're still a really strong unit. They're going to be very key in winning this game. I think they'll force turnover to look really good and really get the job done in this game.
Now I move to a Texas A&M defense that's been pretty good themselves this year. You start with what they have up front. This is a great D-line. They probably hasn't been as dominant, though, as of late. Against Auburn, they didn't really take over. They probably should have. Against South Carolina, against South Carolina, they were not good. Against Sellers in that rushing attack, giving up a lot of big plays and whatnot. But I still think this is a capable unit, but this is the best O-line they've seen all year. Nick Scorton is an elite edge player for them. Shamar Turner and Shamar Stewart are 2 great guys on the interior. Cassius Howell's a nice pass rusher. Albert Regas has a lot of size. DJ Hicks has been on the field. So they got guys in terms of bodies and size and depth that can compete with the Horns in the trenches. This is a team, though, it's going to be hard to generate pass rush. I think Scorton on Banks, Nick, those are 2 likely first-rounders going up against each other. What do you think this pass rush will be able to accomplish? And I think if, Ewers, definitely not going to be as mobile, that might be allowed to them, to come up away with some coverage sacks. I know you've seen it against Arkansas where they were giving up some good pressure in that game, quarterback holding the ball too long. These guys have a lot of speed. You're not going to be able to hold it for too long.
You won't be able to hold it too long. There's a lot of speed on this defensive line. A really good unit for this Texas A&M team. 33 total tackles. Shamar Turner, he's been really good. 6 tackles for loss, 2 sacks for him. Nick Scorton's been really good. 31 total tackles, 14 tackles for loss, 5 sacks, 2 pass breakups. Good numbers there. Cassius Howell, 29 total tackles, 5 tackles for loss, 3 sacks, 6 pass breakups, good numbers. Albert Regis has been really solid, 26 total tackles, 3 tackles for loss, 5 pass breakups. Shamar Stewart's been solid as well, 26 total tackles, 5 tackles for loss, 1.5 sacks. While Ryan Kennedy's been okay as well in rotational reps, 18 total tackles, 2 tackles for loss, 1.5 sacks. Very physical unit here. They're going to put a lot of pressure on you. I like what this unit can do across the board. I think Scrouton's been a really good player coming off the left side. He has a tough matchup against Banks, but I think he can potentially win that matchup. Banks has to be strong all game long. I really do like what this defensive line can do for Texas A&M. A very strong physical unit that can have a great day here.
Look at the middle of their defense as well. Teron York, he's going to be the leader for the Aggies, leading the way with 65 tackles, 5 TFL as well. Hasn't really emerged like you thought he would in terms of creating negative plays this year. He's been an efficient tackler, a little average against the run. Scooby Williams has been an impressive player, though. He's been really good against the run. Neither of these guys are really coverage performers, though. I'm certainly kind of worried about this linebacking core will perform. Marcus Ratliff, their safety, plays a lot in the box alongside these guys, and he's also a good run defender. So I think that's an area where they can certainly be helped out in, but I'm not convinced the Aggies will just take the game over of what they have in the middle. It's going to have to be the D-line, or it's going to be nothing.
I think it's have to be the D-line or nothing. I agree with you. I think the D-line has to be strong here. I do think York and Williams are 2 good players, but I don't think they're going to be the game changers that can win this game for A&M. York, 65 total tackles, 5 tackles for loss, 1.5 sacks, 2 pass breakups. Scooby Williams, a better coverage asset, 42 total tackles, 7 tackles for loss, a pick, and 4 pass breakups. Damian Sanford as well gets involved for this linebacking core, 27 total tackles, 4 tackles for loss, 3 pass breakups. A bit of a mix of a good coverage asset and a traditional hard-hitting linebacker. I think this is a decent unit, but I think the Texas unit's a lot better, and I think the defensive line's going to have to do a lot of heavy lifting here. They don't get a whole lot of sacks in their linebacking core. They're going to have to find a way to pressure Ewers if he's the one going, really exposed. That limited mobility has to be a strong strength in this line, while the linebacking core has to be good in coverage here because I think they're going to have to be really solid across the middle.
Now you look at a Texas A&M secondary that's pretty well coached under Mike Elko. As time goes on, they're going to emerge as one of the top secondaries in the country. 52.4% opponent completion rating. That's one of the top marks in the country. 12 interceptions is good, along with 15 touchdowns. But the corners are certainly concerning. Deez Ricks got abused for 200 yards against Auburn. Cam Coleman had a field day in that one. But as the game went on, they tightened up, and they were a lot better against the pass. The other side, Will Lee, he's having a good year. Not a great one, but he's a confident ball player. And he's been limiting opponents to under 50% comp rate on his side of the field. It's a good player with some ball skills. Those two are going to be the main corners. Javon Thomas will get on the field occasionally, though. In the slot, Jaden Hill brings some speed to the table. He's not really been good in coverage himself. Hasn't been a reliable run defender. Brian Mays, when he's been on the field, has probably been more reliable for them. We'll check if he's healthy, though. Bryce Anderson, though, Dalton Brooks at safety. These are going to be the standouts. Anderson's not that great against the run. He's a pretty abysmal tackler. He's very good in coverage, though. Brooks is the best defensive back, plays with a lot of energy, covers a lot of ground in a quick manner. And, of course, the aforementioned Marcus Ratliff is going to play a key role in this game. And it looks like Mays did play a full game against Auburn, so that's a big return for them. How do you think the secondary will do, Nick? Because there's been times this year where Texas really struggled, probably haven't been playing, as good as expected through the air. But this is still a lot of talent coming your way, and I think these guys are going to play with a lot of heat and a lot of energy. But the corners really are kind of a concern.
This is a good secondary that is a little bit weak at times. Brooks is a good player, 42 total tackles, 6 tackles for loss, a sack for him. Marcus Radcliffe's a good player, 39 total tackles, 3 tackles for loss, 3 picks for him on the season. He's been really good in coverage. Will Lee's been solid as well, 35 total tackles, 9 pass breakups, really good numbers there. Bryce Anderson's been solid, 21 total tackles, 3 tackles for loss, an interception for him as well that he took for a touchdown, 2 pass breakups. BJ Myers is good, 20 total tackles, 3 interceptions, 3 pass breakups. Jaden Hill, Javion Thomas, Trey Jones are all solid pieces with 16 tackles each. A couple pass breakups for Hill and Trey Jones. The secondary will be tested regardless of who's the quarterback here. Certainly a little bit weaker of a unit than Texas, in my opinion. I think it certainly is one of those units that could provide a bit of a letdown here. They got to be strong, got to stay focused, got to make sure they clean up the tackles as well. This could be a unit that could really make or break this game. I think they're going to have a decent day, but I worry that they could get beat on a couple deep balls. I think the passing attack for Texas is a really good unit.
Looking at the tail of the tape, the team comparisons. Texas gets the edge in most of these spots: quarterback, running back, wide receiver, offensive line. The Aggies, I'm happy with their offensive line. I think their quarterback has an interesting skill set that can put up a lot of production. A&M, I'll give them the edge at D-line, even though it's not really that wide. Texas probably even is better in that regard. But in the secondary and linebacker, I'll give them the edge as well. On the defensive side, though, the Aggies aren't too far behind. I'd say they have the better defensive coach as well. So no slouch in there, but in head-to-head regard, Nick, I think the Longhorns get the edge in most of these spots.
Yeah, I think the Longhorns get a lot of the edge here. I think they're close. I think certainly linebacker could potentially close, although I do like the Texas unit a lot. I think some of the other pieces in the offense could be close as well, but overall, I think it's a fair comparison. This Texas team is a really good team on paper, and they're a reason why they're a top 5 team in the country right now.
Now I go to the final thoughts on the prediction. For Texas, don't get overwhelmed by emotion. Attack with better game plan on offense than they did against Georgia. They got to be better in terms of being able to run the ball as well. The Georgia game was just awful. They couldn't do anything, and I think trying to make adjustments, maybe some screens, some quick balls, stuff to kind of loosen up that defense is going to be a part of this game plan. And for A&M, play with energy early on. Put Texas in a rut. Run game needs to have a major day, because if the Longhorns feel that pressure early, Nick, they could be in some serious trouble, because if they're down 14 early in this game, our season's on the line. They might start to shake a little bit and start to make some mistakes. I think that is a legitimate possibility. I think Texas is going to win this game, though. I just think that it's going to be hard, though, going on the road with your quarterback a little banged up against a team that is not happy at all with the Longhorns. It pretty much dogged them when they left the conference, and this rivalry got ended. Whoever's to blame for that, I don't know, but I think a lot of people were saying the Longhorns were kind of in that favor. Maybe you know more of that, Nick, but I think Texas will get the job done. Hard-fought game against A&M. I just think they're the better overall team, and I think their offense will play with more consistency than the Aggies will.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, because Texas is to blame. The creation of the Longhorn Network kind of set off that chain that led to the conference realignment with Texas A&M leaving. Texas dodged A&M for a while, didn't want to play them in a non-conference game. When they first joined the SEC, Texas was trying to dodge A&M. They really continued to try and dodge them, but ultimately the rivalry got set back in stone. It's back on Thanksgiving weekend where it belongs. I would like it to be on Thanksgiving like the previous iterations were, especially in the late 2000s, early 2010s. Those games are on Thanksgiving night. I hope they do that in the future, but this is a big game for all the marbles here. The last time these two teams played, Texas walked it off of a field goal by Cameron Dicker, a really great kicker not Cameron Dicker, Justin Tucker, a really good kicker for this team, and Texas and a great kicker in the pros. This is a matchup with a lot of energy. In previous weeks, I was saying that I was going to pick A&M in this one. I felt like that environment was going to lead to a letdown for Texas, but A&M played really weak last week. I was disappointed with how they played against Auburn. I really thought they should have won that game. Yes, I know Jordan Hare is a house of horrors for top-ranked teams when Auburn has nothing to play for, but I still think they were disappointing in that one. They really let that one get away from them. They could have won that game and really hurt themselves. Basically, they got to win out. They got to win this game and beat Georgia, the SEC title, going to get in the college football playoff. Texas, I think they have a lot at stake, and I certainly think it will be close, but I think they'll eventually pull away and win this one by 8 points. I have as my final score. It's going to be a tough environment. Certainly don't get rattled. I think Ewers is more primed to play in a tough environment than Marcel Reed is, even if Reed is at home. I think Ewers is a really good quarterback, and this defense will get enough stops at the end of the day. Definitely don't let the emotions get ahead of you. This is a great rivalry. I'm really glad it's back. Like I said, that 2011 final matchup was a really good game. It went down to the wire with Texas eventually winning on the walk-off by Justin Tucker. A great matchup, great rivalry. Glad it's back. I'll take the Longhorns in this one to continue to push towards a conference title matchup and a rematch with Georgia in Atlanta. A really big matchup, though, with a lot at stake for both programs.
Yeah, a lot on the line. SEC title game appearance for the winner of this one. And again, the energy and the emotion, it's going to be rampant in this one, Nick. You're going to feel the tension. It's going to be loud. There's going to be a lot of hard hitting. It's going to be very chippy, so you hope the officiating crew can keep these guys in line. But all that stuff's going to be incredibly evident. This will be a very interesting first quarter. I'm not a fan of either team. I don't even have money on it, but I'm going to feel nervous in the first quarter with excitement, because I really think that those things are all going to come full steam to a head on Saturday night.
Can't wait for this matchup, a really exciting game. One of the reasons why college football is so great, you get these great rivalries, in-state battle, two historical traditional programs fighting it out in Aggie land with a lot on the line. Can't ask for much more, really.
Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe. See you next time.